Hello and welcome back to the Bird's Eye View podcast. We are here on Thursday, August 28th, ahead of maybe the series of the season for the Toronto Blue Jays as they will welcome the Milwaukee Brewers to Rogers Center in what will be a matchup of MLB's two top teams. And of course, with the Brewers coming into town, we had to bring back our favorite Brewers analyst, Joey Peterson, an editor with Just Baseball Media, and one of the best Brewers minds on the internet. Joey, welcome back to the show and appreciate you taking the time to do this today.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. We have a good series ahead of us. I know we have some good pitching matchups that'll set the stage for a great series. And who'd have thought heading into opening day that the Brewers and Blue Jays would be leading the National League and American League heading into nearly September? Just crazy stuff.
Yeah, we were saying before we hit record, obviously that obviously the two best teams, and this is our third time having you on, third year in a row here to kind of tee up things between the Blue Jays and Brewers, and things have never kind of been going this well for both of these teams in the time that we've been doing this. So, really exciting series, and I guess I did forget to introduce myself. I'm Zach Worden with my co-host Jori Negin-Shecter as always. So Joey, I guess we can kind of dive right into it. These Brewers. Kind of been just an absolute powerhouse this season. I believe, leading baseball in record and run differential, in magic moments, maybe. It's been quite a season in Milwaukee. What has it been like for you to kind of follow this team this year?
It's been surreal, honestly, considering where this team was at in May. I don't think many people would have thought, nobody would have thought they'd be in this position back, especially leaving New York in the series that the way that went to open the year. It's crazy the strides they've come. And it's not the sexiest brand of baseball, but it's suffocating for other teams, and they've found a way to make it work. I will say I think the Blue Jays are kind of catching them at the right time. They're at the tail end of 19 games in 18 days, and I think they're 5-7 in their last 12 games. So kind of slowing down a little bit, but overall, I mean, you can't really ask for much more from this team, what they've done this year.
You mentioned not the sexiest brand of baseball, but there's a lot of similarities, it seems like, between the Jays and the Brewers, just in terms of being very gritty, very hard to get out teams, a lot of defense, a lot of just find a way baseball. Although maybe the Brewers, to a certain extent, even, I mean, you look at the run differential, and obviously that's on a different planet. But can you just kind of speak through what the Brewers this year have been like to watch?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of cliches, which I don't always love to use them, but it is doing the little things, doing the fundamentals. You look at their runs scored and they're near the top of the league, but then you look at home run metrics, they're not up there. Slugging metrics not up there, but they draw their walks, they hit for average. It's all those kind of things. They take the extra 90 feet, they manufacture runs. It's like RBI groundouts, sacrifice flies, just any way you can get the run across, and just trusting each individual in the lineup to kind of work counts, do their thing, and then just trust the guy behind them. It's just, it all has kind of come together, and you can tell that every single person in this lineup on this roster has kind of bought into this brand, and it's clearly the results are speaking for themselves.
It's amazing because like it sounds like you're talking about the Blue Jays a little bit, kind of with the way you're going there. So it's going to be such an interesting series. I mean, I wonder your take. Obviously the way baseball has gone in recent years. Teams rely on the home run a bunch. They rely on the strikeout a bunch. They're not really worried a ton about like putting the ball in play and make things happen. But for these two teams to be at the top of their respective leagues playing this brand of baseball, where like you said, they're putting the ball in play, they're making things happen, they're playing really good defense. What does that kind of tell you about maybe the way that baseball is going and how this brand of baseball with these two teams could maybe impact the sport going forward?
I mean, it's awesome. It's cool to see teams like the Brewers and Toronto, two teams that no one, they're kind of afterthoughts heading into the season, kind of see the success in different ways compared to where the other teams, around them in the standings. For the Brewers, it's kind of nothing new. This team's built for 162, and every time someone thinks this team's going to take a step back, someone else steps in. You look at a guy like Caleb Durbin this year. He was trade for Devin Williams in the offseason. No one really knew what to expect from him, and he's kind of emerged as a key back of the order bat down the stretch here. So it's just that kind of stuff where it's, again, another cliche. It's next man up material. We'll see how it plays in the postseason. That's obviously yet to be seen. Brewers obviously have had their fair share of struggles in the postseason recently, so we'll see. But over the course of 162, it just kind of all adds together, and it's been awesome to see.
Yeah, the parallels in terms of playoff stuff, I'd imagine in Toronto, very similar. I'd be curious because you mentioned kind of the Brewers having a next man up mentality, but who do you feel have been kind of defining players of the season because it really has been a wide array of guys. Just it seems like the Brewers just have a million dudes that are going to do kind of make it hurt for you, so to speak.
There's a handful of them. I mean, I think Andrew Vaughn is the most clear candidate. If you've been tapped into the baseball world for the last couple of months, odds are you've probably seen what he's done since being traded to Milwaukee. Um, his numbers have come down a little bit from being the best hitter in baseball for the first like 2 weeks since he got his call in Milwaukee. Um, but I think he is the perfect example of kind of what the Brewers do. You know, Vaughn, when he was in Chicago, he's the guy. Obviously, they have a couple of other talented hitters like Robert and all them, but like there was a lot of pressure for Vaughn to perform, and he didn't live up to those expectations. Well, you come to Milwaukee, and it's like he doesn't need to be the guy. You know, he just needs to be one piece of the machine. And Murph said right when he came, it's like you chase, you're not going to be playing. You know, limit, control the strike zone, and you'll get playing time. And I think that one simple mentality change has just like unlocked a whole nother level for him. And I think he's just one example. I think that kind of speaks true for all of these guys. I think like Durbin, Isaac Collins, he's one of the leaders for Rookie of the Year. I'm not sure how many people outside of Milwaukee know about him, but he's a guy who does such little things well, and it all comes together. And he's just been a truly remarkable player for them. So it's just kind of those mental changes where it's like everybody has their job and they're doing it all at the same time, and it's not reliant on just one guy.
Kind of interesting coming in too. I mean, they've played so well recently without Jackson Chourio, who kind of established himself as like maybe the face of Brewers baseball last year in the second half and in the postseason, and they've kind of done it without him. And obviously, they lose Trevor McGill yesterday to the injury for what seems to be maybe the rest of the regular season. So kind of tough for them, kind of coming into the series. And I guess it kind of plays into like the next man up. But how have they been able to cover for Torrio being, he was even before kind of going down, he wasn't, at that same level yet. And McGill has been, an all-star level closer this year. So how have they been able to cover for Torrio, and what is kind of the plan to cover for McGill here as they come to Toronto?
Yeah, so starting with the Cheerio thing, unfortunate news. I do think he's going to make his return this weekend in
Is
Toronto.
he? Oh, very
Those are
right.
the rumors.
You know
I
what
think he was
though?
making his final rehab start yesterday, and I think it went well, so I think he's making his return. So,
That's great though.
but
You know what, you love to see things like just love to see the great players. So it'll be good.
Except for
I
the
think
fact that it's in
heading
Toronto.
Well,
exactly. Heading into, I think yesterday's game, they had the best record in baseball since Churio hit the injured list, which is just insane.
yeah.
Really, it's like so Blake Perkins has kind of taken over that role in center field. Brandon Lockridge, their key trade deadline acquisition. That again, not sure how many people know about him. He's a speedster, good defender in center field. Uh, it's just like those kind of guys, and Bryce Terang becoming the best hitter in baseball in August. That has certainly helped. Contreras, getting his power stroke back, it has been enormous, and I'll probably touch on that a little bit later. So it's just guys stepping up when, they have that in the tank. So knowing that they can tap into that potential is just it makes it so that when Churio's out of lineup, then this team keeps on going. As far as McGill, obviously that's a tough blow, and this bullpen has already kind of been leaking oil, so to speak. These last couple of games, you can tell they're gassed and workload's catching up to them. So it'll be Abner Uribe to probably pick up the closer role, who's been sensational this year. I think he is the fifth best ERA among relievers in baseball. He's been an absolute dog. So he kind of does everything: strikeouts, groundouts. He's a pretty fun watch for Brewers fans. I'm not sure what Blue Jays fans are gonna be thinking about him, but Shelby Miller will be kind of thrusted into that hold role, in the absence. Who he is one of their deadline acquisitions too. He's kind of starting to come into his own. Um, Guys like Nick Mears, Jared Koenig, all these guys just kind of go up an inning in their role in the bullpen. So it'll be tough, but this is such a deep group of arms that they have a couple guys who can go multiple innings, like Aaron Ashby, and you kind of look at those guys who kind of bridge the gap between the starters and the closers, and I think it just kind of puts a little bit more pressure on them too. But they got the talent.
So for someone that maybe like for myself even, I'm not watching Brewers games all the time necessarily, the NL and in the Central and so forth. I skim baseball reference and you see Bryce Terang is leading the team in baseball reference war. And obviously he's an exceptional defender, but you look and he's really seems like he's elevated himself as a hitter as well. Can you speak about what he's kind of brought to the table?
Yeah, just a fun fact. Turang in 2023, 6 home runs. all of 2024, 7 home runs, and in August he has 9 home runs. So
Wow.
insane stuff. Yeah,
Wow.
insane. And he's spoken about it how he's always kind of known he's had this pop, but he doesn't try to hit home runs. That's not who he is. He's a guy who, he's a slap hitter, just tries to put the ball in play and make it happen with his legs. But he's just simple enough. He's just catching the ball out in front more, which is kind of a testament to how he's seen pitchers right now. He's comfortable at the plate. He's getting his A swing off seemingly every single at bat. And I think just catching it out in front has really just made that big of a difference for him. So, like you said, you kind of knew he always had it in there, but this kind of takes him into a whole another echelon of second baseman, Uh, Heading into the year, it's like he's a good defender, he's a fine floor hitter, but if he can really tap into that power, he becomes one of the best second basemen in baseball, and that's kind of what we're seeing in August. I don't think he's ever going to want the month of August to end the way he's hitting it.
Yeah, it's incredible just kind of seeing, the number of guys that they've been able to kind of produce and have come up and be, competent, even more than that, big leaguers. So really cool story there. But I mean, of course, you mentioned William Contreras earlier, kind of coming on as well for them and is, almost like the kind of leader of the Brewers. I think when you think of Brewers baseball, like he's kind of the guy that you're thinking of right now. Obviously, Churrio's kind of in that conversation. But I mean, for him, what have you kind of seen from him to kind of have, that you mentioned like his power surge, and obviously he's great defensively and all that. Like, how important has he been to this team, especially as he's come on of late here?
I wrote an article on Just Baseball last week, I think, just highlighting about how he's back and he's ready to lead this team because that's truly what he is when he finished fifth in MVP voting last year. Like that's the kind of
Yeah.
hitter he is when he's going. And so through his first 101 games this year, he had 6 home runs, which he's not a prolific slugger by any stretch. He's kind of evolved into a more well-rounded hitter since coming to Milwaukee, but that's a pretty noticeable dip in power. And early on, he had a fracture in his left hand, which
Okay.
was an injury dating back to last year. But I think the pain was just really getting him this year, so he played through it. Clearly, was impacting his power. So I don't know whether the injury is healing. He's playing through the pain or whatnot. But in his most recent 27 games, he has 10 home runs. So you can tell that he's kind of getting that swing back. Kind of started in August. He had a 2 home run game on July 30th.
Okay.
So really, in the month of August is when he
Yeah.
started hitting his stride. And it's no coincidence that during that stretch, the Brewers won their first 14 games of August. Like I think that shows just how important he is to this team. And in that article, I kind of pointed out like the Brewers can slug. That's probably their one shortcoming when it comes to if you're trying to pick a hole in their team. But he's the guy who can deliver that type of swing and in that key moment. And you need those in the postseason because when
Yeah.
hits and runs are coming at a premium, you need a guy who can really deliver that big blow. And he's the guy in their lineup. So
We'd
having him
also
back is
be
massive.
Yeah, and we'd also be remiss if we didn't mention Freddie Peralta as well. I mean, obviously on the pitching side rather than the hitting side, but you want to talk about an ace. I mean, he's been really good in the past, but this is like a different version of him, it feels like. No?
Yeah, I think he's seventh in ERA in baseball in ERA this year, which
Like
is,
he's gonna get Cy Young votes, right?
yeah, he probably will get some down ballot votes. It's not always sexy with Freddie. It's can be pretty stress free. He's a guy that'll go like single, punch out, 2 walks, bases loaded, and then punch out the next two. Sometimes it takes 100 pitches to get through five, but his run prevention, you can tell he's kind of figured out his mojo on the mound, and yeah, he's firing on all cylinders. He's still one of the best pitchers in the National League, and he's the leader on the pitching staff, like bar none.
Yeah, it's going to be like a great weekend of pitching matchups. I mean, I believe it's Freddie Peralta against Shane Bieber, and then Quinn Priester and Kevin Gossman or Max Scherzer. I can't remember which order Gossman and Scherzer are in, but they're throwing for sure. And then Woodruff for Game 3 for the Brewers. So really going to be kind of a fun group of starters going this weekend. Priester and Woodruff were like pretty interesting because Woodruff's coming back and he's looking pretty good, like looking kind of like himself. Like we can start with him. But like, I mean, what has it kind of been like for him kind of working his way back and how do you kind of see him, helping this Brewers team, not even down the stretch, but into the playoffs?
In my unbiased opinion, I think it's one of the more underappreciated stories in Major League Baseball
Yeah.
this season, honestly, because to take 2 years off of baseball alone is tough, but to rehab from his shoulder surgery and go through the adversity that he did and then come back and still be a valuable pitcher is unheard of at not the youngest age either.
Yeah.
So And I think what makes it even cooler is he's not the guy who's sitting 97 with his fastball anymore. He's not touching 100. He's sitting 93, low 90s, but he is dotting everything and he is painting the corners, painting the edges, and he has learned to make the perfect pitch. That's truly what he does at times is make the perfect pitch to get out of outs, to get out of innings, and it's cool to see him just kind of change. He's aware that he's not the pitcher he used to be when it comes to velocity, so he's kind of adapted and he's still a tremendous arm and he can grab a 96 when he needs to. I think he picks and chooses his spots, but I think he's kind of prioritizing location and sequencing at this point in his career, and he's still finding success. It's remarkable.
I know he's still got a year, or at least I believe he's got a year left on his deal, but it was a mutual option. But he's a Brewer for life, right? That seems like obvious at this point.
Yeah, I mean, coach, if he's not a coach for the Brewers down the road, a pitching coach or in some capacity, I will be absolutely stunned. He already is.
Um,
Like he already is kind of that coach. Like that's his role. Like when he wasn't when he's around these guys, he's partly a pitching coach to these guys too. So I think like he's a guy that truly, again, another cliche, his value kind of goes beyond the diamond, and he is that guy in the clubhouse that
Well,
keeps these guys together.
it seems like the Brewers kind of just again, it's just on the margins, right? It's with everybody, it seems like with them, right? I mean, not to go too heavy on it, sort of, but it really does feel like the Brewers. I mean, everything's going right this season by the looks of it, but that's how they operate, right? And the Jays have kind of emulated that in some ways, and they've gotten a lot of value out of guys that they weren't expected to get value out of in the same capacity. But the Brewers, you take the dial and you kind of turn it up to 11, I'd say.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm a natural skeptic when it comes to Brewers baseball, just because of what I've seen over the years. So that is a really, I mean, you have to play perfect baseball to get success. Like when the Brewers won their 14 straight wins, they were playing perfect baseball. And in the postseason, that's what's gonna be the difference. They're gonna need to play absolutely perfect. And over these last 12 games, they're not doing that. So, and then like I think that's when they kind of come back down to earth. They're making uncharacteristic mistakes. Like last night, they went 1 for 12 and with hitting with runners in scoring position. It's like that's where they were excelling earlier in the year. Excuse me. But like that's the kind of stuff where it's the margin for error is so razor thin that if you're playing perfect baseball, you're tough to beat. But like you got to be perfect, and that's my only one concern about them heading into the postseason.
For kind of the postseason, I mean, obviously they're shaping up to be in a great spot. Obviously the best record in the National League in baseball. How do you? I mean, you mentioned that you're feeling a little bit nervous or kind of skeptical about how things may go. But I mean, obviously they're going to be in great position, getting to play at home. How do you feel, about like the potential matchups that they could have, whether it be, I think the Dodgers and Phillies kind of seem like they're going to battle it out for the other bye there. But then you're looking at the wild card matchups. Who do you feel like most confident about the Brewers taking on, and who do you feel a little bit of concern about?
I mean, genuinely, I do. I think they can beat anybody. Like I
Yeah.
said, if they're playing perfect baseball, they will beat any team. If they don't make any mistakes and they capitalize and hit with runners in scoring position, they will beat any team. Obviously, playing perfect baseball is no guarantee. So I think obviously the Phillies and Dodgers come to mind are the two
Yeah.
teams that, they don't need to play perfect baseball. They need to hit a couple homers in the right times and they can win a game. Whereas, I don't know if the Brewers have that ability. Maybe they do, but we've seen in the past that sometimes they don't have that key hit. So I think those are the two that worry me. The Brewers play the Phillies after the Blue Jays series, so they go from first place in the American League to the Phillies, are one of the top teams in the National League.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of see them tested in the next couple of days. But uh, again, if things are going right, I think they can do it. We'll see if they have the power to kind of compete with the Phillies and the Dodgers.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, that's a good test for them. The Jays kind of have the same thing where they're, the Brewers and then the Yankees and the Reds are mixed in there as well. So a good little test for both of these teams coming up here as we head into the final month. I guess kind of for your money, we've talked a bunch about like some of the top stories with the Brewers this year. Are there any guys that we haven't touched on that, you have been really interested in, like kind of your personal intrigue level of Brewer stories, like your favorite Brewer stories of the year, like anybody on the roster that kind of comes to mind that we haven't talked about?
First is Quinn Priester.
Yeah,
I think what he's done since coming to Milwaukee it's remarkable. He was on a recent interview on the Just Baseball Show podcast, um, just talking about how in years past he was really his four seam was his main fastball, and he would when he would throw it, he was just hoping hitters would clip it, or foul tip it. He had no confidence in the pitch, and I think that obviously impacts the rest of your arsenal. Since coming to Milwaukee, he's scrapped the four seam and went to a sinker. He's less reliant on strikeouts and more reliant on ground balls. He's one of the more elite ground ball pitchers in baseball. His ground ball rate, I think, is like 57%, something insane like that. Um, and he's leaned into that formula because when you come to Milwaukee, it's like you have gold glove defense behind you. You need to use it. So I think that mind shift and that confidence has just unlocked a whole nother level with him. So I think watching him go out in every start and just throw with conviction has been really, really cool to see because I mean he's a great human being. Like he's the one guy where everybody's rooting for him to succeed. So to see him have this level of success is really cool. Offensively, I mean, Turang we already talked about him, but to
Yeah.
see him take his game to the next level, like Andre Monasterio, another guy I'm not sure many people have heard of, but Joey Ortiz, when he hit the injured list, Monasterio kind of stepped in and has been playing shortstop. In his 6 games, he's hitting like 380 with an OPS of like 1100, like that kind of thing where he's been in the organization, he's been a super utility guy, bench guy going between AAA and the majors, but now he kind of has his moment and he's stepping up. Um, those kind of things. And like Caleb Durbin, I touched on him earlier. His playing time has been a little more inconsistent lately. Whenever he faces righties, he generally is getting the bench right now, and he's still coming up in key moments. So even in that inconsistent playing time, he's still battling through and coming through when he has his moments. So it's just those kind of things where it's cool to see these guys elevate in their moments, and it's really really cool to see.
Yeah, Jays fans shouldn't be expecting any kind of reprieve. It seems like it really is sounds like a 1 through 26 team, which the Jays in some ways also have had the opportunity to kind of build, but the Brewers, like I said before, right, like dialed up to 11. I had a kind of sort of follow up there. For the Jays, the very clear kind of storyline of this series is going to be how do you match up against baseball's best? How do you fare when the very best in baseball, when you have to face the best pitching, when you got to face the elite hitting, how do you fare? For the Brewers, what's kind of the narrative? What's kind of the storyline heading into this series for them?
I think not letting things spiral. McGill hitting the injured list is obviously it's tough. And Priester was supposed to start yesterday. He got scratched because of a wrist injury and he got moved to Saturday. So first and foremost, making sure he's good to go. He's his old self. Um, Getting Churio back will be huge. So I kind of seeing how all the pieces come together. Winning 14 games, you have a tendency to come back down to earth a little bit, which is what we've seen. So I think you're facing the best of the best coming up. I think is if can they re-elevate their play, not just tread water and not just like, win a game or two here and there, but can they like get back to their brand of baseball, I think is what the main thing to watch.
One thing that, we've kind of moved away from like trying to make weekly predictions here because we were really bad at them. So I'm not going to put you on the spot and try and predict the series or anything. But I mean, what are kind of your expectations for the series? Like, what do you kind of expect? You know, how do you expect the Brewers to play? Like, how do you expect the games to look?
Like you said, I think there's a lot of similarities between these two teams, which makes me believe that this is going to be a really competitive series. And I think it's going to be really fun baseball to watch in a very different kind of way. You're going to see a lot of similarities on these two teams. I think the series is going to go 2-1. I don't know which way it's going to
Yeah.
go. I think that's just what that's. I'd be surprised if one of these teams swept, just because that's not really in their DNA at this point. Um, the Brewers, just lost back-to-back series against the Giants for the first time since early June. So like not losing series has been kind of their MO. So it sounds like the Blue Jays are in a similar spot. So I think
Yeah.
we're gonna have in for a pretty even matchup.
It'll be fun to watch for sure. Before we let you go, I have two more players that we got to talk about. Very niche on the Brewers side, or from our side as well. But a couple Canadian guys who have been with the Brewers this year, and Tyler Black and Rob Zastryzny. With those two guys, I mean, Tyler Black, I think is really interesting because he was, a top prospect type who is kind of he started the year injured and kind of hasn't been able to get his feet under him and get consistent time at the major league level. So we can kind of start with him. But kind of what's been up with him this season, and do you think that there's any chance that he'll be kind of impacting this Brewers team the rest of the way, or is this kind of a 2026 thing for him at this point?
I think it's a 2026 thing. I think they kind of have their core guys because once Hoskins comes back from the injured list, he kind of takes up first base. They kind of have their all the positions he plays are kind of set at this point, which is really unfortunate for Black because he's a grinder, he's a gamer. Like he is a Brewer through and through. He just has that kind of profile. He just not getting regular at bats is really it's really tough to battle through that, man. And like he has the talent. When he gets the runway, he's going to be a good big leaguer. I think I said that in the last show and it never
Yeah.
came like he still has yet to get that opportunity.
Yeah.
So I think once that time finally comes, if he just needs to find a defensive home that's still his thing. Like is it going to be at
Right.
third, first, outfield, That's probably getting into him too. So not having a home, not having regular playing time at the big leagues is just makes it tough for him. But I'm pulling for him and I really hope he gets a shot.
And then Rob kind of, very small piece of the Brewers bullpen this year. He's only thrown, I think it's the 13 innings for them this year. But I mean, 2.03 ERA. He's never kind of struck out hitters at the rate that he has this year. I know he's hurt right now, so we're not going to see him pitch. But what have you kind of seen from him and kind of what has been behind his almost, breakout this year in such limited time?
He's one of those guys that goes really underrated in this bullpen because he's the sixth guy when he's healthy, seventh
Yeah.
guy, so he'll come in kind of mop up duty. But those are super valuable. That's a really valuable role. If the Brewers are down one and he comes in and eats an inning and preserves the bullpen, like that's a valuable role. And yeah, I think he loves being in Milwaukee. He's had some really clutch when he was healthy and pitching. He had some really clutch outings, and you can tell he has the love for the game. He wants to compete, and he loves being part of a winning team. So when he's healthy, he's a really fun guy to root for.
I'm sure you were not ready for a Rob Zastryzny question
I'm
today.
always ready for a Rob Z question.
That's awesome. Well,
One
Joey,
guy, one guy I did want to talk about, which it'd be remiss for me not to mention Christian Yelich.
yeah, yeah, of course.
Not to open up another can of worms, but what he talking about guys who have been fun to watch this year. He's also up there because you look at his numbers, it's an 815 OPS. That's really solid. But it was a horrible start to the year, like really,
Yeah.
really bad. I kind of peg May 22nd. He had a two-run home run game against the Pirates. That's kind of where the switch flipped for him.
Okay.
Since May 22nd, he has a 321 OPS and an OPS or 321 batting average with an OPS near 950.
That's the cushion Yelich you remember.
That's the Yelich that has been swinging the bat. Like that's the version of him, and it's really cool. He's on pace to hit 30 home runs for the first time since 2019. Really cool to see him get that power swing back. He leads the ball in ground ball rate. He also leads the league in home run to fly ball rate. So it's like when he
Yeah.
elevates, he has the power in him. But you can tell he just talking about leaders. He's the guy too. And I needed to bring up my Yelich plug because what he's done this season has been awesome.
I was pretty locked in on the Brewers Cubs series. I believe it was last week, like with the Owen Casey debut and kind of the whole division stakes there. I was kind of interested in that. So it was kind of, following along and the Cubs announcers were like very intrigued by Yelich's home run to fly ball rate. They're like, don't let him hit the ball in the air because it's gonna go out if he
It's
does.
insane.
So
Dude,
it's
it's insane.
crazy.
It's either on the ground or it's a home run. It's
Yeah.
insane.
That's awesome. So
Like that's hyperbolic, obviously, but
yeah.
like
But it's not. But
sometimes it feels like it.
It's
It's
it's awesome to
crazy.
see him back and doing well though. Obviously, like one of the guys that you want to root for and see do well. So, you mentioned like fun stories, and I feel like we talked about so many guys, but and we're not going to necessarily see him in the series, but the Miz has been, one of the baseball's most interesting stories. I know things haven't, excuse me, necessarily gone as smoothly for him recently, but I mean, what has it been like to get to see that dude pitch? Because that is a unique type of player.
It's crazy, and I think what we're seeing is kind of exactly what fans expected to see. When he's on, he can carve out 12 or 10 or whatever it was against the Dodgers, but he can also get chased in the second inning, and just let things spiral. You mentioned that Cubs series. Mizorowski had one inning in that series that just it got to him. He lost it. He was falling off the mound. His mechanics were out of whack, and he just completely lost it. So like that's the kind of thing that if he's locked in and his mechanics are he's square and he's consistent. I mean, he's such a long whippy delivery. It's like it's hard to have that repetition and consistency. But when he does it, he's unhittable. I mean, you hear guys talk about facing him and it's like how do you even hit that? But he's not perfect. And so I think the Brewers kind of have to approach this thing where it's like if he's good, awesome, but I don't think he's a guy they're relying on down the stretch, you know. Like I think there's a pretty good shot they move him to the bullpen in the in the
That'll
playoffs.
play. That
Yes,
will play.
because I mean when you have guys like even Quintana, who he's not going to pitch in this series, but proven playoff pitcher. When you have him who can go, when you have Priester thrown with the efficiency that he is, it's like you don't need to take the gamble with Mizorowski as a starter, but if you can get him locked in as a reliever coming out of the bullpen, that is a weapon that no other team in Major League Baseball has. So I think he is in a unique situation where he's still trying to figure it out, but what we've seen in spurts has been outstanding.
I would say I would love to see like a Mizorowski to McGill playoff bullpen, like just
Oh,
for
it's
the
crazy.
pure like 6-7 and 6-8, like coming at you in the eighth and ninth innings would be kind of ridiculous, just for the
That's got to
pure,
be the tallest back end
yeah,
tandem in Major League Baseball. I'd have to
ever
fact check that,
probably,
but
yeah.
ever, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's gonna be fun to watch the Brewers down the stretch here. Obviously, they've played so well and have built themselves a good lead, and hopefully things, for your guys' sake, kind of flips around in October and you get some really good playoff baseball in Milwaukee. But really appreciate taking time to do this today, Joey. Always great having you on. Always great Brewers insight, and excited to watch this series and then follow your work the rest of the way.
Yeah, thank you, and hopefully we meet in the World Series. Let's just say
Yeah,
that it'd be a fun matchup.
the preview pod would
Right.
go crazy. So.
Oh my goodness, it's crazy. We could two podcasts in 1 year. I couldn't even imagine that. That's crazy. But no, thank you guys. I appreciate it, and good luck this series.
Thanks, Joey. Really appreciate that. That is Joey Peterson, an editor for Just Baseball Media. You can follow him and all of his work on Twitter at jpeterson12_17. We'll be back shortly after this break to recap a little bit of the Blue Jays and Twins series.
This episode of the Bird's Eye View podcast is brought to you by BioSteel. Use code Bird's Eye View at checkout for 20% off your order at biosteel.ca. Again, that's code Bird's Eye View at checkout for 20% off your order. For all your high performance hydration needs, visit biosteel.ca. Thank you again to BioSteel for sponsoring today's episode.
And we are back. So, Jory, obviously, Brewers series coming up here is going to be very entertaining and very must-see TV between what is, the league leaders in record between the Blue Jays and Brewers, despite the Blue Jays' play of late having been, not quite to the level that we saw early in the season. However, they just keep off ripping off series wins. They come off this twin series where they take 2 of 3 at home, despite, maybe not playing their best baseball. We can kind of dive into the series and recap a little bit. How did you feel about things? I think, game one, they get to Joe Ryan. Game two, there's the bullpen implosion. And then, of course, the huge comeback in the third game of the series. Where do you want to start with those?
Gosh, we may as well start from the beginning, go chronologically here. That series was chaos manifest, absolute it show, if you will. And you know what? At the end of the day, you walk out of there with 2 wins. I think I do read a lot into them getting to Joe Ryan. I think that's pretty big. If there's one bigger sample size takeaway you want to take from that series, it's the beating up on Joe Ryan, and it's the comeback wins once again coming into play. The Hoffman stuff, I'm sure we'll touch on that in a moment, but it's just the life of a reliever. And yeah, the bullpen's been a bit of a disaster of late, but it's just the nature of bullpens. But I feel like, you put up, I don't have the numbers exactly in front of me, but they were just tagging Joe Ryan in game one. And I'm just going to pull up the numbers here.
Yeah, so with Ryan, the thing that I was most impressed with was kind of their approach against him, right? Like here's a guy who has probably one of the best fastballs in baseball, if not like the best fastball in baseball, and they're coming out and they're just attacking it, right? Like they were hunting it. You could see like a ton of first pitch swinging. Jimenez hits the huge homer, longest of his career, off of Joe Ryan, a first pitch fastball. Like it was the approach was really impressive, and I think there is some of like the Blue Jays can't hit good pitching that I saw on Twitter, and that certainly had been something that had cropped up with like Paul Skeens and Yuri Perez. But I think back to like the Giant series where they get a bunch of runs off Logan Webb and Robbie Ray, and they battle Scooble out early, and they were frustrating the heck out of Joe Ryan in that game. So I think when you kind of get to the postseason. Obviously, the pitching is going to be tough, but you can kind of see when they're able to game plan for a guy and frustrate him like that.
And Nathan Lucas had a big game as well. Vladdy had a couple RBIs. I pulled up Joe Ryan's line here: 5 innings, 7 hits, 6 earned, 1 walk, 7 K. So the K is obviously high-ish, but for Joe Ryan, not that high. And the 6 earned runs speak for themselves, right? Like the way that they were able to consistently tag him. I look at that and it tells me again, like you said, they do have the means to do damage against good pitching. I look at the previous series, they get carved up the game before by Eury Perez, and then you answer back against Joe Ryan in such resounding fashion. Calms the nerves a little.
Yeah, the Scherzer thing too. I mean, I actually thought that he was pretty good. I know the final line isn't as sexy as you may like it to be. It was he was really good through 5 innings, and they send him out back for the sixth. Then he gives up 3 runs there, a couple homers to Matt Wallner. I think Mike Petriello actually had a pretty good thread about how he's going to need the secondary stuff to start to get more whiffs to really kind of be the guy that you want in October. But one thing that I believe he talked about was how he's been kind of battling his changeup a little bit, and his changeup looked really good in that start. So I think that's an encouraging sign. And ultimately, I mean, if Max Scherzer's through 5 in the postseason and is giving you 1 run, I think you're probably maybe making a call to the bullpen. Obviously, you're going to want the bullpen to start to pitch a little bit better as they lead into the month. And the bullpen can survive a poor August, but it can't survive a poor end of September and October.
Yeah. Well, I've been asked about the bullpen a lot, and I actually want to ask you a little bit kind of about it. And this is a good kind of segue into game two because obviously the Hoffman implosion is the headline on that one. The walks are way up. Yariel Rodriguez also, in addition to Hoffman's really struggling. I think the only guy that's really been nails of late is like Tommy Nance
And Justin Brule. Shout out
and
Justin
and
Brule.
and Justin Brule. It's a bit of a here, there, and everywhere for the bullpen. I have repeatedly stated my concern level is low because the way that bullpens are is it's up and it's down and it's up and it's
Let me
down.
let me ask you this. So that's true, right? Like bullpens are so unreliable, so volatile. Does it almost like give you a sense of relief that they're like having this down right here because certainly that means that the rebound is coming like as they head into the stretch
I would
run.
hope so. I mean, again, the walks are extremely frightening. The command seems to have escaped them, and they're giving up a lot of bombs, but that was kind of always going to be the case for this bullpen. I mean, is there anyone that you're freaked out about, I guess? Like I feel like it is just I don't want to just throw my hands in the air and be like small sample. It's like
Yeah,
15, 16, 17 innings and sometimes just dumb stuff happens. But also like this is not really the time when the dumb stuff is supposed to be happening. And
yeah.
I mean, Louis Varland to me is not the Louis Varland that you traded for. I'm frightened by that. Sir Anthony Dominguez has had his moments. He had a great outing yesterday, but it's been mixed. Like who do you trust right now? Like where, if you'll allow me, the circle of trust. I'm not even gonna sing it because
Well,
it's that kind of day.
yeah.
What is that right now?
It's a tough question. I was on the radio the other day and they're like, who are the two best Blue Jays relievers? And I was like, well, I mean, I guess Jeff Hoffman and Louis Varland, like because they're the guys that throw strikes the most consistently, right? But even Hoffman, we have seen that not necessarily be the case recently, and Louis Varland has, I think if you're looking at like guys that you're most concerned about, like to me, his struggles are a little bit different because they've been like messing with his pitch mix a little bit after the trade deadline, so I think that there's a little bit of a concern there. Dominguez is such an interesting case because in August he has a 24% strikeout rate and a 22% walk rate. So, that's a little high and little, of course. He's, been walking a bunch. He's kind of been pretty wild. And I think you look at a guy like Little, you look at a guy like Yariel, like these guys are, and Hoffman, same thing where they've been worked really hard this entire season. So is that catching up to them a little bit? Hard to say. But yeah, I think you're looking circle of trust as we stand here on August 28th.
Like is one
Tommy
of the members of the
Nance.
circle?
I mean, Tommy Nance in,
Oh,
in August, 13 innings, and he's given up 1 run.
I mean. the results have been there. I don't know, but the process.
It's been pretty good. He hasn't given up a homer. The strikeouts are there. The walks are low. But I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, right? Like earlier in the season when we were talking Circle of Trust, like we were just ripping names off, right? Like it was Hoffman, it was Little, it was Fisher, it was
Well, that's the other
Yariel,
thing. Like
right?
Fisher's
And
in AAA right now.
yeah,
Like, is he part of the circle of trust despite being outside the 26 man roster?
I
I
mean,
mean,
when he
is
comes
it just
back, I
is
think he
out of
has to
sight, out
be.
of mind?
I think when he comes back, he'll be kind of back in that circle of trust. And they kind of desperately, I think having him back right now would certainly be a nice boost for them. But I think when you're like looking circle of trust, like you don't want to like kick these guys out because they've had a couple, you know, or a bad month or whatever, right? Like, but it certainly has been not ideal, and it's not ideal that they're all going through it at the same time. I mean, for you, like like circle of trust, like I mean, in the smaller picture, there really kind of isn't anybody in there right now that you're feeling super confident about. But in the big picture, I think you're still confident in like Hoffman, Dominguez. I think Little still to a certain extent. Fisher when he comes back. Yariel, he threw a couple 92s the other day, which I wasn't super in love with. But I think one thing with Hoffman last night was that his velo had been down 2 outings in a row, and last night it was back up to averaging 96. So I think that was a positive sign for him. And if he's at 96, then that's kind of the guy that you want.
Jeff Hoffman's previous career high in innings is 66 and a third. He is at 55 and two thirds with another month to go. He is, oh, excuse me, no, actually, his career high as a reliever. Well, that wasn't as a reliever. That was kind of he started a lot that year too. In 2021, he went 73 innings. And before that, obviously, you have to go back to 2017, but he was pretty much a starter there. But as a pure reliever over the last 3 years, last year he got to 66 and a third. He's gonna blow right past that. Like I definitely think that stamina, that durability is going to be something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And I mean, like obviously you kind of talk about that second game, right? He comes in, gives up the 4 runs in the ninth, and after George Springer hits a couple second tank homers, second deckers, and you're feeling pretty good. Bassett was solid. Varland gave up a run in kind of some struggles against his old team, and then obviously the Hoffman things happen. Yeah, I mean, do you have any other bullpen thoughts? Like, I don't think that we've like necessarily come to a resolution of like where we're at on this bullpen, but I just think that bullpens are so volatile that it's really tough to have something specific to say about them right now because it is a bad stretch and they need to pitch better. But it's not like there's a trade deadline coming up where you can acquire some relievers to help it, right? Like they did that already, so they need these guys to pitch better over the final month, or else you're going to go into October in a concerning spot.
The answer's got to come from inside the clubhouse, and it's such a cliche, but I mean, in this case, it's true because there's the only help coming from the outside right now is Braden Fisher and
Blue Hardy's technically in AAA right now. Ryan Barucki, Adam Macko.
I mean, none of these guys are saving the day.
Macko's been pretty good his last couple times out working in relief. So
If Adam Macko is your answer to save the bullpen, you've got big problems. And no disrespect, Adam Macko, Canadian story, great player, like good story within the Blue Jays org, like good development story. Wouldn't even would be stunned if he pitched on the big league team this year.
I don't know if I would go with stunned because Justin Brule has pitched a bit recently, and Fluharty needs the 15 days. Fisher needs the 15 days. So like if they kind of want to flip that Brule spot, I think Mako is kind of in consideration right there, right now. But let's move into the third game because I think, way more to talk about in that one. Obviously, the Eric Lauer struggles could also play into this bullpen discussion, right? Like Lauer, really tough game yesterday. His own admission, he says that he was way over the plate too much, and then Nance and Brew will come in and kind of save the day and shut things down. But of course, you get two Schneider home runs, you get like this incredible Dalton Varsho catch, you get the huge comeback, you get another Andres Jimenez homer, um, and then you get the huge Barger double that kind of gives them the lead. You get the Springer sliding into home with all the emotion. Um, what was kind of your biggest takeaway from that game?
I mean, is it too easy to just say like, "Wow, did Barger need that?"
Hmm.
It's kind of the to me, it's the storyline there.
Yeah.
He has just had a miserable, miserable month, and for him to pick up a big hit there, you really hope that's a sign of things to come. Because as much as the Jays are a 1 through 9, 1 through 13 hitting team, Barger at this point is part of that equation. And I mean, we'll see what happens here as well. Santander's potential maybe reemergence here. It kind of sounds like they're making progress, which is a first for him. May play into things with Barger and potentially his playing time, but that is a that is a guy that he needs to be going for the Jays to be going.
Yeah, I was at the games this week, like and kind of around a little bit, and John Schneider was asked about Santander, and he said, that they'll kind of see how he gets into those rehab games and kind of judge it from there. So I wondered, for you, like seeing Santander, like it's a guy, it's a switch hitter, he's got to fix things on both sides of the plate. When do you feel like they would need to see him back for him to be like a potential, postseason roster type guy?
Well, I was listening to Blue Jays Talk Plus the other day, and if I recall correctly, the Bisons go until the 23rd, I want to say it was. They go until the last week of September. So he has about a month here to get into games. It doesn't seem like he's going to be imminently in games, but I think you probably need him to get back to the big leagues and play some regular season games if he's going to factor in for the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that he's going to have enough runway still. So
It's
I
it's
think
it's tight right now.
if he can show in a very small sample at AAA that he's healthy, I think then you're a little more confident. But if there's any struggles at all in AAA, I think that pretty much ends his season.
Yeah, it's gonna be kind of interesting. I wonder, how hard that they'll push him. Obviously, he hasn't been pushed very hard necessarily to this point because it's been multiple months
They
at this.
pushed him hard once and it went very poorly.
Yeah, so I think you almost want him to get like 2 weeks on the MLB roster, so that would give him, 2 weeks of rehab games, which I think like kind of lines up okay, but that also requires him starting rehab games like now,
Tomorrow.
basically. Yeah, so we'll see. Will be interesting to follow, but yeah, the Barger thing, like absolutely huge swing, huge moment. Kind of funny, I don't know if you saw like the bat thing where Ty France like took up one of Addison Barger's old bats, and Barger after the game he was like, "Oh, I don't even know where he found it, but my bat wasn't working." And after France homered with it, I was like, "Well, I guess I got to use it too." And then obviously he comes up with the huge swing. So um,
Baseball, man.
credit to
That's
that
baseball,
bat,
man.
credit to that bat for providing a couple of big swings for the team. But I think the Lauer conversation is pretty interesting as well. Like obviously he struggles yesterday. Huge layoff for him. I think it was like 11 days since he last pitched.
Well,
Um,
that's a pretty substantial. I mean, I don't know if it's too long a layoff, but to struggle coming back from that kind of layoff, like I had him in my playoff rotation for an extended period here. I'm not sure that's necessarily the case anymore.
Yeah, like I mean, the last time out, I think we all remember the Dodgers start where he gives up a ton of homers, and then yesterday, of course, gives up a ton of homers against the Twins, and the start of between against the Rangers where he wasn't necessarily in the zone, and I think there was, you look at the pitch charts from that, and he was also kind of over the plate, and
It,
maybe
it was you that
results
mentioned the
wise.
pitch plus stuff, right? From Fangraphs on him, where
Yeah, like it's
he's
it,
kind of
it's
faded.
kind of been fading, right? So I wonder, again for him, right? Like he's at 92 innings on the year, and it's a guy who, he hasn't reached that total in 3 seasons at this point. So, and where do you kind of see him fading? Like, do you kind of think that this is a guy that maybe need some time in the bullpen, or are you happy to kind of keep going? Obviously the Bieber thing I think completely changes the calculation.
I wonder if, you talked about the Brule thing. I wonder if he becomes the lefty out of the pen.
Yeah,
I mean,
I,
he's got
I
the strikeout stuff.
I think it's a reasonable expectation. He's pitched out of the pen this year. One thing I say 92 innings, like that's 92 big league innings, but he also had 24 in the minors, right? So he's up over 100 on the season total. And I think he is such a clean fit in the bullpen out of the guys that they have as a starter. And if he's struggling um, with his time in the rotation, I think it maybe makes sense to give him the red start the way that they have it lined up because you do want to do like the Bieber, Scherzer, Gosman thing against the Brewers and the Yankees. So I think you line up Lauer for that Wednesday against the Reds. I think that kind of makes sense. And then from there, if he struggles in that one, then I think a move to the bullpen certainly does line up nicely.
Yeah, like you kind of outlined it, right? You got to put your best out there against the best competition, and Lauer right now is just not part of that equation. You want to keep him in the mix here in case something changes. I mean, he was so incredibly effective earlier on, but there's some pumpkin kind of Cinderella adjacent concerns going here.
Yeah, it'll be yeah, actually I talked myself into it. I'm good for the red start and see and go from there. I think that kind of makes sense. All right, before we run, we said that we were going to do like the Trey Savage monitor, and last night he had his third AAA start. Fairly effective over 4 2/3. He gives up 1 run, picks up 5 strikeouts. Got a fair amount of swing and miss, and one thing I thought like watching the start was he like wasn't in the zone consistently enough. Like had a bunch of 3-ball counts, walked some guys in the first inning that came around to hit him. So I think there's still work to be done there, and I think what we were at 30 and 20% for his potential big league appearances this year for whether it would happen. How are you kind of feeling about that? I think one thing that was encouraging last night was like the velo was kind of back up after he had been down to like 93 in his previous one.
I'm still there. I'm not quite at 30, but I still feel like the Jays are preparing for this to be an option. That was his third start at AAA
Third, yeah,
or second, third.
third.
So, I mean, ideally you want him up sooner than later, but I'm not exactly sure. I mean, I feel like he probably would have to blow the doors off at AAA to to really force the Jays' hand, and that obviously hasn't been the case. I mean, he could put together an incredible start next week, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, yep, nope, we're going with it. But it's fading. I'll put it at 20% right now.
I'm down to 10. I guess we're both just chopping off 10%, but you know what? Here's my take. However, Jonah Tong performs on Friday will impact my Trey Savage odds.
Eh, that sounds about right.
However, Jonah Tong performs against the Marlins, and we saw how their offense has been playing. So
Let's just say it's not the first debut this year they've had some trouble with.
yes. All right. You got any other Twin Series takes? I mean, there was kind of like so much that happened yesterday. I think the Varsho catch kind of went unnoticed. The Schneider 2 home runs, like really actually kind of interesting with Schneider, like the way he's hit pretty well against righties, and obviously he gets the righty start yesterday. But anything else from that series that you
I think that there's some meat on the bone there. But I think at this point, you beat the Twins. You're supposed to beat the
yeah.
Twins. It's a lot to take away, but I think at this point, you're looking forward. I think you're looking at the Brewers series, and you're really, like we kind of said with Joey, it's a litmus test. It's a
Yeah,
real opportunity to show that you can hang with the big boys.
it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be one of those series that you're gonna be locked in on and following along and trying to see how you stack up against the best. And it's good for the Jays that it comes at Rogers Center. I think it'll be they play so well at home. The crowd last night was electric, insane. Maybe one of the loudest buildings I've been in my life, if not the the loudest, especially on that Barger swing. So exciting. It's going to be a great atmosphere again, and the Brewers are going to be a certain, fun test for this team.
It's going to be a good series.
Yeah, 100%. Well, we are going to run. That is going to do it for us here today at the Bird's Eye View podcast. Thanks again to Joey Peterson, an editor with Just Baseball Media, for joining us today to preview everything Jays and Brewers. You can follow him on Twitter at jpeterson12_17. Make sure to hit the subscribing and like buttons if you're watching on YouTube. You can find us there at the Birds ID Podcast. If you're listening along on the audio provider of your choice, make sure to drop a follow and review. You can follow us all on Twitter. I am at Worden_Zach. Jori is at Jori Negin-Shecter, and the pod is at BEV_pod. Thanks so much for listening and enjoy the series.